See, again, admitting I am not a technologist, the two parts of the discussion, the first part is already over. The second part, we should have come first, could have come first, was the empowerment of communities. What is the meaning of the word empowering? When I say that I am empowered, that means that I feel independent. I feel that I am not dependent on others. I am not begging others for different things. I have got my own mind, I have got my own methods, and what I need, I get the solution from the technology, whether it's computer, wireless communication, or whatever. When we are talking empowerment of communities, I'll give you a few examples. Recently, we started one venture called Me Seva in our state called Andhra Pradesh. And in this Me Seva, we are trying to deliver the certificates which are mandated by the government to be possessed, like your income certificate, caste certificate, date of birth, residence certificate, etc., etc. We are giving those certificates across the counter using common service centers. We have created databases, we have created applications, back-end applications, we have created front-end applications, we are rendering through a web service. This is what I would call, I'll say it's an example of empowerment, where the citizen is not made to run to the government offices n number of times, go to the touts, go to the brokers, pay different types of money at different places. Our target is something around 100,000 transactions per day. As of now, we already reached 70,000 transactions per day. In a year, it will be something around 300,000 transactions, taking 60 days off for holidays. 300,000 transactions multiplied by a figure of say 1,000 rupees. You can see it is 5 plus 3, 8. 8 zeros after 3. That is the amount of black money that we are preventing from entering the system. That is the amount of that's the amount of money which you are saving for the citizen. So, because I have gone through, as a common man, I have gone through the stage where for a particular death certificate, I had to visit the same municipal commissioner several times, that particular clerk several times. When he was not responding, I had to go and complain to the commissioner, and I got the certificate in 15 minutes. But for 3 days I was running. So that is what I mean by empowerment. Now, as of now in Andhra Pradesh, we are giving these certificates across the counter. Around 40% of certificates across the counter, 60% are still, there are a lot of back-end processes involved. When I am talking about empowerment, I would like to have this type of empowerment. Wireless communication, computers, they are only means. They are only means of empowerment. Now, what has to be done for getting that type of empowerment? Okay, I give it that yes, the cost of whatever spectrum government has to make it free, they make it free. Cost of the equipment because of the volume usage comes down. Then what? A lot of, when it talks about empowerment community, lot of government processes have to be redesigned, lot of databases have to be developed, systems have to be developed, so that the person, whether it comes to health, it comes to education, it comes to governance, the person feels that yes, I am living in an independent country and I have got some place, some worthy existence. That is what I mean as empowerment. A lot of work has to be done from the government side as well as assistance from the NGOs on this issue. That's all.
I want to get a little more specific now. We have been talking about communities. It's very, very general, and I think we get confused about how to address this community in India or around India, the South Asia. How do we address the requirements? From a strictly marketing point of view, I would say let's identify the targets within that community. What are the communities that we are talking about? Are we talking about clusters? Are we talking about NGOs? Are we talking about panchayats? Okay, so unless we identify the segment that we are going to target for connectivity and empowerment, we are not going to arrive at a solution, and we are just going to go around in circles, right? So that's the reason I think that's what we are doing right now. Let me recall part of the program that I helped initialize between .org, PIR, and DEF. We identified NGOs as a sector to, as a cluster or a community to address their requirements, okay, to get online, to get web access, and to use all online technologies to empower themselves and to become visible, right, and to generate the kind of visibility that they deserve to have, right. 80% of the NGOs that we have in India currently, about 3.3 plus million, do not have any website presence, right. So they don't have access to internet, they don't have internet presence, nothing. So what we did was to basically pump some funds into a program where we said we'll go to all the NGOs bit by bit, and we will provide them websites. So what we did was to address their requirement in terms of what they need to do to help build a website. So we understood the constraints. The constraints were that they thought building a website was a very expensive affair. It was highly technical, so they didn't have the resources or the wherewithals to address those requirements. We demystified that through the workshop that we did with NGOs. And we have been doing that for about a year and a half, and it is a continuous program now. Probably will happen over the next few years again. And then, in some cases, when they started to realize that it was easy to kind of set up a website, to run and maintain it, that's one thing that we are doing, one aspect of the program. The other aspect of the program was a lot of NGOs are grassroots NGOs where they are in remote areas doing, stupendous work, but they don't have internet access, right? So now there's this ecosystem that we are trying to get into where we'll say, okay, what is the point of creating a website for an NGO unless it also has access? So we'll talk to people like Airjaldi or so many other people like Mike here who can actually get us there in terms of providing access, right? So there is this program that we can bundle together to provide access as well as build websites. So that's the kind of solution that we are working on, and that's where I would say that this topic about open, empowering the communities or wireless for communities is a much more relevant way of looking at things, right? So that's what we are working on. So I think that's the way we look at it. The other program, flagship program of DEF has been Panchayat, e-Panchayat, right? That's another community. Okay, 99% of the panchayats in the country are not connected. They don't have a website presence, right? So that's the solution we are going to look at. So how do we use, what kind of spectrum is going to be used for these different clusters or communities is what we have to arrive at a solution, which is fieldwork based and something that we can't really decide here. Okay, one solution fits all. So 2.4 maybe for someone, 5.8 for someone else. So that's the way it's going to be. Okay, so solutions have to be tailor-made. So use of spectrum has to be tailor-made to the local requirements. That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, that sounds a little better. I think Mahesh touched upon a very significant point, which is, okay, you've made all the effort and you reach the rural area and the price points don't make great sense as yet. And then I think that's a big hammer on a very important nail. So my thoughts on what we might want to see done tries to respond to that. And as usual, it's the supply and the demand. On the supply side, we basically need to look at ways of lowering the costs of provision. As you pointed out, rural ISPs operate on wafer-thin margins. We're not drinking your blood in Madhubani. I like Madhubani a lot, actually. So the first thing is, if you want to move things forward, avoid excessive taxation and license fees. These are not the realities today in India. Again, it's not a session about policies of the government of India on ISP licensing and so on, but those of you who are in the know that it's very, very excessive, in my opinion. I pay 2,000 rupees for a driving license, but I pay the same amount in crores to be able to deliver 512 connectivity to Madhubani. I don't see the logic to it. The other thing is lower all sorts of additional barriers, including physical inability to provide government clients by anything else but government providers. Closely linked to it is the idea of sharing infrastructure, physical infrastructure, and somebody touched upon it. We have an interesting case in India, which is not unique to India. A company that's paid for by our taxes, at least in part, to be a wholesale provider and a retail provider. This company is called BSNL. It has an amazing physical infrastructure which it will not share. So either it's a private client, and then it operates as a private but doesn't require government funding, or it's provided government funding but allows sharing. Now, the nodding from my side is to say that BSNL has just said that they will share infrastructure. Mahesh is here with me to testify that we've tried to show them that notice in the newspapers and demanded they help us, but they didn't. So that'll be the day. On the demand side, how do we actually deal with increased demand? It's a problem again. I'm not a great capitalist, but on that one I'm with Milton Friedman, the great liberal economist. If we could, can we subsidize the clients directly rather than the providers? provide, more and more schemes. In India, for example, the food distribution is moving now to cash to the clients. Give them the money on the UID, let them spend it. So some of them will spend it on Charu, but others will actually buy bandwidth. You will buy bandwidth, you won't buy Charu, right? If they had the power to choose the provider, at least we would have a better ability to get more demand. Thanks.
Again, we've been trying what we've been trying, but some of the points, I would think of when, we want to take a spectrum to the communities, Wi-Fi, long range, is again, who do we want to target? Are we looking at existing government institutional mechanisms like the Panchayat, Block Development Office, the different, ministry which have their own offices in those areas? Who are we targeting? How are we going to go there? Then there is, of course, the businesses which are operating in those areas. Could be that remote school, could be that remote college, could be whichever institutional one. Again, I think it's very important to understand each of these different categories because they have different paying capacity, they have different needs. Their ability to grow those needs is limited or available. The target potential is there. Again, are we looking at individuals like everybody loves to talk about agro advisory services. I've heard in the last 4 years there has at least been 60 companies, I'm not kidding, which have come and said we have an application which can deliver agro advisory. There's been a bunch of kids from Bangalore who've come and said we can do e-education, we can do e-health. I said the infrastructure doesn't exist, the roads to those hospitals don't exist, the power doesn't exist for you to put up a computer. Nobody knows about a computer. There are no doctors, there is no nurses, there is no A&Ms, there is no facilitators for these things. And there is no funds to build the capacity and the ability for them to take the bandwidth, take the services, do the job, get paid, make it sustainable, make it long running and grow, you can grow it. I think there is a certain level of I think we're miscalculating this thing, potential. I think we have to be very realistic about while we put this potential of Wi-Fi to get into regional communities and change so many things. There are low-hanging fruits. We've not been able to connect and provide good quality bandwidth in the cities, in the peri-urban areas. Let's attack those, I think, first. Get them up and running. Show it as models for people who are looking up and aspirationally at these small towns and cities. And then take it one step further. I think we're going way too deep. Where microfinance institutions created ultra poor, I was an ultra flop. So, somebody has a ability to come back and pay. So I think we have to be very conservative in our ability to forecast this demand because it's very difficult and we've faced it. Maybe it's different in Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka and Tamil Nadu where I come from, but places where you really need this connectivity to empower people and get them out of Naxal affected areas, it's the ability to do that is so low. So I think that's one word of caution I would put across in the thing.